Good morning. Rise and shine. It's that time to start your day with your girl, Cassandra Renee. I don't know if I'm going to use that. It's awfully cheesy. Anywho, good morning. Today it's Friday. Yesterday I had a total blonde moment and I was like, yeah, it's Friday. No. So yeah, today is Friday. It's Freedom Friday, and you're here with me with Wild Blossom Beacon Coaching, aka Cassandra Renee. So today is Friday. Good morning, Steve. Thanks for being here. Friday, aka Freedom Friday. And what do I mean by Freedom Friday? I mean the focus, since I love alliteration, is about how to forgive and leave the past in the past, which is perfect because this whole week we've been talking about forgiveness, the 5 different types of forgiveness. And today we are going to focus on the 5th type of forgiveness. What do you think it is? We've forgiven people we love. We've forgiven people we know, but we're not that close to. We've forgiven situational things, weather-related, random acts of vandalism and whatnot. We've worked on forgiving the unforgivables. What's left? What do you guys think? And I'm going to give you guys a second because I really want you to think on this because I'll bet most people don't even think about it. So type in the comments, tell me good morning so I can say good morning to you, and tell me what you think that 5th category of forgiveness is. I hurt myself on the counter this morning. So we've forgiven people we love, people we know, but we're not that close to, situational things and things out of our control, the unforgivables. What's that 5th thing we're forgiving today? Good morning, Christina Marie. Love the love. What's that 5th category of forgiveness? Drinking my own hair. Anybody? Anybody have a guess about what that 5th thing of forgiveness is? Yourself. Ding, 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 ding. We have a winner. Yes. And so often, thank you for that answer, Steve. Yeah. How often have you ever stopped to forgive yourself? Now, we've probably said on more than one occasions, I'll never forgive myself, fill in the blank. But have you ever tried? Right? Like, have you actually honestly ever even tried to forgive yourself? And I can already hear the answer. I wouldn't even know where to start. Well, good morning. Hi, I'm Cassandra Renee. Allow me to assist. So that's where we're going this morning. And I'm very excited because while it's kind of like I saved the best for last, because you can forgive all the external things and that's great. Forgiving yourself can actually even be more difficult than forgiving the unforgivables. Almost, not necessarily, because it's easier to do things that involve other people. It's easier to project, right? It's easier to pardon other things and whatnot, but we are always our own worst critics. As much, even those of us who just let crap slide, we still are. That involves to forgive ourselves. That means admitting we've done something that's less than stellar than we would like, that's below our standards, if we even have standards. And if we don't have standards, oh man, that's even more work because now we have to set standards and acknowledge that we didn't even have them, or the standards that we would like to set, we know we didn't even come close to. It means going within. And this personal development stuff, guys, it is not easy. I actually, on my morning calendar, my daily calendar, I think it was yesterday. The quote was like, yeah, you have to have grit. You have to like make a commitment because it's not easy. If it was, everyone would be skinny, pretty billionaires running around all over the place, happy as can be. Like, no, like you have to put in the work. It's not easy. But when you do put in the work and you get on the other side of it, it's amazing. It's so worth it. And it's not to say that everything in life that's worthwhile is difficult, because it's not, and we know that. But, ooh, the mega things that like deliver and like keep on going, man, put in that little extra effort and it's so worth it. It's like, I haven't said it in a while on here, so it's worth repeating, but I do say it very often. Negativity and positivity, right? Negativity is super contagious. So is positivity. It just has a higher boiling temperature, right? You're looking at that pot of water and you're like, why aren't you boiling? It's got to get there. It takes time, but once it boils, it's going. And so once you get to that level, once you go through, and for a while it seems like nothing's happening. Like first you might see a couple bubbles, you might hear it whirring, but then it's like nothing happens. And you're like, I was doing work. What the hell? And then you keep doing it, keep doing it, keep doing it. And then it finally seeps in. And then it's like, all of a sudden it's a rolling boil and you're just like, whoa, what? That's how self-development works. And that's how positivity works. Once you get there, then it's like inertia takes over and it's just like, hey, you have a great day. Yeah, thanks. You have a great day. I like your sweater. Cool. You look awesome today. And it's just like giving compliments makes you feel good, makes other people feel good. And it's just like, it's a blessings that keep blessing, And so forgiving yourself really requires you to go in and look internally and see, I guess I'm not perfect. Where could I have possibly done something that wasn't perfect? You got to get real with yourself. Now, we could probably all off the top of our heads think of at least 5 things, probably even from just yesterday, that were like, I probably could have cut myself some slack on that. Now, it's not even necessarily something like crazy, like I was a total jerk to that person yesterday. It could be something as simple as, I was really hard on myself. Like I had a couple extra spoonfuls of my, once again, nut butter amore, and probably didn't need to have those. And I actually didn't, but we're just using this as an example. Maybe I beat myself up over it. Like, you knew you shouldn't have had those extra ones. Like you knew you should have stopped when you thought you should have stopped, but you didn't. You can cut yourself some slack. Cutting yourself some slack is a form of forgiving yourself, right? How about the deeper form of that? How about cutting yourself some slack for the 20 years you spent beating yourself up over your weight or overthinking things? Or why do you always say that? Why do you always do that? Any of that natter that comes up? Why do I always fill in the blank? How come I never fill in the blank? Those are good places to start looking at ways you can forgive yourself, because we're programmed to think these are rules and structures I'm supposed to live by. Says who? Says magazines and media, where it's all fake anyway. So we program ourselves to live by these structures and these confines and these rules. And when we don't meet those standards, maybe they're not our standards, but they're standards that have been programmed into us. And if we don't meet those standards, that's when the natter comes in and it's just like, no, you dummy, you weren't supposed to do that. Or no, it's not good enough. Or you got to be better. You got to be faster. You got to be stronger. Work it, make it, bake it, stronger, bake it. Whatever. I don't actually know the real words. But FYI, that was not Kanye first. That was Daft Punk. Just so you know. So looking at that, that's ways that you can take a look and say, man, I have been mentally and emotionally beating the crap out of myself for years. These are these little tricks that are going to set you free, that are going to liberate you. And it's Freedom Friday, so let's do it, right? That are going to set you on the path to whatever the goals are that you set for yourself and allow you to set bigger goals and then keep moving the carrot forward, keep setting bigger and bigger goals, because you're liberating yourself from these chains that you've imprisoned yourself with. And so forgiving yourself is mega. It's super important. And we rarely give ourselves the chance. We can forgive somebody when they've hurt us. And let's be honest, how many times have you forgiven somebody who didn't actually deserve it? But it was that whole need to please, pacifist society where it's just you don't want the drama, or you've just been conditioned yeah, it's okay. When really inside you haven't even given yourself the chance to be no, actually, how do I really feel about that? You know what? Actually, no, I am still upset about that. But externally, you're crap, I already said it. Nah, we're good. Now I have to walk around acting like we're good when really we're not. So how many times have you externally forgiven somebody else, or even internally, and yet you continue to talk more crap to yourself than you've ever talked to somebody else or allowed somebody else to talk to you? These are the kinds of things that you can look inward and be so if you don't know where to start to forgive yourself, these are what places you can start. And then of course that can go down to actions. It can be anything as, external, beating yourself up for not working out like you should have, or for overdoing something. Or it could be for acting or reacting, as opposed to responding to somebody or something. Or it could be situational, so it could involve other people or not involve other people. So there's all kind of ways. You're with you your whole life, right? So you get to go back through everything and say, wow, where can I forgive myself? And it's actually a pretty good practice, especially if you're new at it. It's a pretty good practice to add to your day. When my clients do my 90-day program, they get a habit tracker. And they have an entire habit tracker for forgiveness. And they're free to use it however they like. But it's a pretty good idea to ask yourself, you can write it down on an index card, what can I forgive myself for today? Because I guarantee you, however many years old you are, every single day of your life, you could probably think of something new you could forgive yourself for. Or at least something, because remember, some things take practice and it's not just instant. So there's probably some things that you could work on. You know what? Have I forgiven myself for that? What comes up for me? Still there. All right, let's work on it. So lots of places. For those of you watching, if you'd like to type in the comments, good morning, Brian. Good to see you here, buddy. For those of you guys watching, would you like to type in would you type in the comments some things that you would like to forgive regarding yourself? Good morning, Samantha. Thank you for being here. That way I can help you get started with that, because I've given you some ideas, some examples, but it works best when we are actually working for you. So while you guys are typing in the things that you would like to work on forgiving yourself, there are no limits to this. Go ahead. Most of the things that we've been working on forgiving other people have been putting us in the victim seat. Well, forgiving yourself, you can be both the victim and the criminal. You can forgive yourself for being a victim of yourself. And you can also find situations where maybe you were the not so nice person. And maybe you need to acknowledge that and then forgive yourself. So for anyone who's kind of had a past reputation of being the bitch or the jerk, the mean person, this is a good area, especially if you're trying to turn over a new leaf, if you have any past transgressions that you would like to be free of. So it's not saying that you're a bad person. We all have things that we can forgive ourselves for, from cutting ourselves some slack from the crap that we talk about ourselves, to chastising ourselves for not having had a cheat meal, or having not put the spoon down, or not doing something, or having done something too much, said the wrong thing, made a presumable fool out of ourselves to somebody else, put ourselves out there, not put ourselves out there, all that kind of thing. So, I mean, this one is a pretty big pool to choose from. So you guys start typing in things that could use a little extra TLC, and we'll get to work with it. So while you guys are typing those in, I've got one more quote for the week I would like to share with you guys. And this one comes from a woman named Yolanda Hadid. I believe forgiveness is the best form of love in any relationship. It takes a strong person to say they're sorry, and an even stronger person to forgive. Now remember, the longest relationship you'll ever have in your entire life, it's not with your significant other, it's not with your parents, it's with yourself. So you can apply that quote to anyone in your life, but also make sure to apply it to yourself as well. I believe forgiveness is the best form of love in any relationship. It takes a strong person to say they're sorry, and an even stronger person to forgive. Because it takes that strength to acknowledge that it happened, right? And that's what we've been doing in these processes. We've been acknowledging the situation, acknowledging that, yes, this happened, acknowledging the feelings that came up from it when it happened, and then proceeding from there. So that is exactly what we're going to do and where we're going to go. Brian's got one, and I'm so excited to get to that. Thank you for sharing, Brian. I'm going to pick that up in a second. Before we do that, let's get into our affirmations, getting us primed and ready. So you guys can repeat these with me out loud. They're the same ones we've been saying all week. They're good you can go back to these videos if you don't have them written down. They're really good to have on you to just help you through these processes. And these are by no means comprehensive. If you have other affirmations that you would like to add to this, or if you've got a different type of wording for it, feel free. This is just to get you started. So go ahead and say these out loud with me. I am understanding. I am forgiving. When I forgive, it is final. I breathe in peace and breathe out the past. The past does not determine my future. I am compassionate. I forgive wholly and completely. I let go of whatever no longer serves me. All right. So you guys have been thinking about things to forgive yourself with. With this particular exercise, you're going to just write out, and feel free to write some out now, and definitely feel free to take some time after this episode is done to really just journal on that, because you're probably going to have, I give a sheet like this, and you're probably going to have like a couple journal pages full of things. And when I first did this exercise, I was amazed at the amount of crap that just kept coming up, and how I kept having more and more things to write, that I was like, oh my gosh, how am I ever going to get through this list? I've got so much that I had no idea that I really needed to let go of. I really need to be done with. I really have to forgive, because Think about it this way. All the stuff that you're not forgiving is just waiting around somewhere in your body, somewhere in your subconscious, let alone all the stuff that you can consciously think of. When you're writing it, it's kind of mucking up the water in your subconscious. So it's bringing things to the surface that you might not have currently been thinking out. So of course, when you start to write, the first things that come to mind are the ones that are actually already on your mind. Like, I could have been nicer to this person. I should have done that. And notice while you're putting these in, because you're shoulding on yourself. That's a big indicator that it's something that you can start forgiving yourself with. There's a reason should and shit sound alike when you're shoulding on yourself. It's an indicator that it's probably not a good feeling. It's probably not a good thing. So this is where we're going to lay it all out there and stop shoulding on yourself. Okay. So first, I'm going to lay out the process, and then we're going to get to what you'd like to work with. Sarah, thank you so much for submitting. I'm absolutely going to get to you as well. So first, let's go through the process, and then I'm just going to go through the list here. So very similar to what we've been doing, right? So we're going to acknowledge the situation. What was it? What was said? What was done? What happened? What are your feelings around that? And if it's a situation where it's totally you beating yourself up over something that involves you, like, I didn't eat what I should have. I didn't exercise what I should have. I didn't do my makeup before I went out on that grocery store run, or blah, 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 whatever. Lean into that. And this is my advice, not just for forgiveness, but anytime you feel triggered about anything, our natural reaction is to recoil, right? Get judgy, distance yourself, and should on somebody else. But the challenge, and this is where that higher evolution of humanity comes in. Instead of the fight or flight, recoil, lean into it. Tell me more. I just felt repulsed or jealous or angry. Why? Let's peel back the layers. What about that made me upset? Was I really just hangry and needed a Snickers? You know, that kind of thing. I love that commercial because it really helps put things in perspective in a fun way. Like, oh, wait, yeah, maybe it wasn't the situation. Maybe there was something deeper to it. Maybe there was something, it was shallow and it was just as simple as I was hungry. You know, like, so acknowledge the situation, and you don't have to relive the situation, but know that whatever you felt, you are worthy. Your feelings are valid. You don't need to be made wrong for feeling the way you are. And what's horrible is when we're working on forgiving ourselves, we start going into that cycle where we start justifying and talking ourselves out of, we're actually unjustifying our feelings, where we're acknowledging our feelings, but then, oh, you know better, and oh, you know this. And we're like, it's like the world does that enough to us as it is, telling us how we're not worthy of this and we're not worthy of that. You do not need to be doing that to yourself. So acknowledge the situation and acknowledge and know that your feelings are valid. You felt these ways for a reason. Now lean into that reason. Is there a deeper reason? Did you feel guilt and remorse about eating those extra spoonfuls of amore because someone somewhere told you that you can only eat just this little amount of dessert? You can only have just this little amount of pleasure, or else you'll get fat, get acne, blah, 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 and then no one will love you and blah, blah, blah. Like, follow that white rabbit down the hole, see where that goes. That's why this When we're working on forgiving yourself, it's a little bit different of a process. You actually want to follow that thought process, follow that rabbit hole down. And journaling is a much more effective way to do this as opposed to just thinking about it on your own. Because when you think about it on your own, that's where things can get blown out of proportion and spiral crazily. So when you're doing this exercise of forgiving yourself, you really want to have a journal with you. So after you've shotgunned all this massive list of things you're going to forgive yourself about, each one individually, you're going to take these in small doses, guys, because this is heavy. Say like, I'm going to work on 1 a day, 2 a day, 3 a day. Take it in small doses. Acknowledge the feelings. Where did that feeling come from? Why did that feeling come up? And so often, sometimes you need to pause for a second and check in. And 9 times out of 10, the first or second thing that pops up for you will, A, it will surprise you, and B, it's going to have a much deeper root than you expected. I'll share a story with you. I was on a call with my mentor a couple days ago, and I was having a problem visualizing. And all of a sudden, like every time I would meditate and work to visualize something good for myself, I couldn't. I felt like I was drowning. Everything was dark and muddled. I couldn't see anything good. I couldn't see any pictures. And I felt like I was being choked in addition to like gurgling. And I just thought, okay, maybe there's some other things going on. So I'm talking with my mentor and she goes, "You felt like you were drowning?" And I said, "Yeah." She's like, "Well, tell me more about the drowning." I had to have that reminder to lean into the drowning feeling, lean into that feeling. Oh my gosh, I almost drowned when I was 7 years old. Guarantee you they're connected. Go on. Well, my sister was just born, and I was really mad that my mom was giving her attention that she never gave to me. Oh my gosh, everything just clicked. I had already known in my baby brain, but my child brain couldn't consciously understand that, but it was deeply embedded in my subconscious, which I didn't find out until a few years ago. But at the time, it was deeply embedded in my subconscious that my mom didn't want me. I was never enough. Hence, the perfectionist came out. Hence, no matter what I did, we were always going to have a rocky relationship because I couldn't live up to her standards. And she couldn't understand why nothing was ever good enough for me. It was because internally it was never good enough for her. So anyway, that's the backstory. So I'm angry that why did you have another child when you didn't even want me? Why does she get the love? So I go out to this pond. We had some land at a summer home. And I go out to this pond and I'm swinging my wiffle ball bat and I'm pissed off and it flings out of my hand. I'm like, shit. So I lean out to get the wiffle ball bat and I fall in. Well, it's the deep end and I'm 7, so I haven't really graduated from swimming lessons. And the seaweed is actually wrapping itself around my legs. And every time I'm like gasping for air, I'm also yelling help and I'm being pulled down. And I don't know how many rounds, at least 3. And I'm like, oh God, I remember thinking I'm going to die. And I also remember thinking, hi, Teddy, thanks for being here. I also remember thinking, I bet you she's not going to save me. I bet you she's too wrapped up with my baby sister. I get saved. I get pulled out of the water. And then I see my mom running down the hill with my baby sister. And that pissed me off even more. Like, obviously I was grateful to be alive, but now I'm even more pissed off, reinforcing, yup, you don't care. You couldn't like let her lay on the floor or whatever. Like, I'm 7. I can't really think of these things, but like, you couldn't have done something. Like, you would have let me drown. If it weren't for my uncle who dove in and ran down the hill, dove in and saved me, I would have died. So this drowning thing came up for me in the past week. Last week, I opened communication with my mother again for the first time in over a year. I had this whole coronavirus is happening, post, preventative of the end of the world. My gosh, I don't want to have this regret if she at least doesn't know. I feel like she at least deserves to know why I cut off communication with her, because we've had a rocky road. And I have a cycle of doing this, by the way, of sucking it up, taking the high road, coming back. And that's a different story for another time. Point is, I opened the door, threw her a bone, extended an olive branch saying, this is why I feel like you deserve to know why I cut you off. And I just want you to know that, her response was typical for her. Never once has she ever apologized for anything. Never once has she owned anything. And, there's it in any agreement, you are 100% a person, you are 100% a person. It takes 200% for anything. And she has never claimed any percentage. And all I've ever wanted was for her to show up. And so as soon as her response was very lukewarm, wow, it must have taken you a lot to tell me that. Yeah, well, it takes a lot of personal growth on both ends for either of us to ever have a relationship. My wall went right back up. And I thought I was good. Hey, I've been doing this personal work, especially on that woman, for over 17 years. I'm okay with that. I cut her out of my life. We're good. So I'm talking with my mentor a couple of days ago, and I realized, oh my gosh, I can't see the good in my life anymore while I'm visualizing and meditating. I feel like I'm drowning. I reopened the communication with my mom, and that angry 7-year-old who almost drowned, who blamed them, obviously as a rational adult, I know that wasn't her fault. I know she's not to blame about that. But that angry 7-year-old that's still in here, I thought I kicked her out, but she's still in there. She's pissed that she got rejected from mom again. And so she's stamping her feet and she's literally drowning inside of me. So that's whole story to illustrate whatever feelings are coming up for you that you're beating yourself up over, that you are looking to forgive. That was I still have more work. It was a reminder that I still have more work to do. Forgiving my mom, but also forgiving myself, because if I'm being honest, I did beat myself up. You knew that's the kind of response you were going to get. Why? You know that's just a more evolved dance of the same circle you've been doing for 17 years. Congratulations, you got better at it, but you still did the same cycle. And so that was me beating myself up internally about it. And sometimes it only takes that one for it to seep in. And so in this forgiveness exercise, whatever the situation is, my situation in this case was, I'm angry at myself that I'm really good at manifesting. I'm really good at visualizing my future. I'm really upset that I can't right now. I don't know what's going on. Okay, well, what are the feelings that are coming up for you? I feel like I'm drowning. Lean into the drowning feeling. Oh, crap. I almost drowned once. Go back to that story. What happened with that? Do. Oh, see how it's all connected? That's how it all peels back. And that's how the healing happens. When you can trace it back. That's how, if you watch the videos from last week of the beliefs section, when you find that personality anchor, these are those little balloon pops that happen. And when you can tie them down to the anchor, that's what can eventually float it up like the house and up and finally free you from this personality anchor. Hey, Damon, thanks for being here. So these are really the steps in forgiving yourself. The situation, acknowledge the situation, acknowledge your feelings, know that you are valid in those feelings. Lean into those feelings. Why do you feel that way? Where does that feeling come from? When did that feeling first occur? How else do you feel that feeling? What other times are associated with feeling that feeling? Trace it back. Go down the rabbit hole. It's eventually going to lead you to something that's a big trigger. And it usually, if you really want to eradicate it, now you don't have to do it with everything, but the more and more you work on this, the better you get at it. You're going to notice the majority, the most triggering things that are really going to liberate you are going to date back to about age 7 or younger, right around there. Because after about age 7 is where we formed our core beliefs about who we are, what we're not. So not with everything, like I said, when you get through this, but your massive breakthroughs that are actually going to be like the key, like you're going to have these little breakthroughs that come through like to 20 to 30, with like whatever ages. But when you have these like these windfall breakthroughs are when you're tracing them back to around those super young ages. Because that is like, that's the one that's like in Tetris where you get like those double lines that just eradicate and buy you so much more time. Like that, maybe I'm dating myself talking about Tetris, but like that is where you're going to have your windfalls. So acknowledge the situation, acknowledge your feelings, validate the feelings, lean into those feelings, trace them back. When you can trace them back, it's like in math, you find the lowest common denominator, right? You're reducing the fractions. When you can trace them back, you're usually going to find your clarity and your epiphanies there. That alone will provide healing. As you go through this, once you can acknowledge that, then you can go through the other steps of forgiveness. Then you can see that person. Then it's kind of like a flow chart. Okay, does it involve another person? Probably. Can you create a silly story that takes you out of the game and gives a silly reason for why they might have done or said what they did? And I really want to get to your what you guys typed in. So if you want more clarity on that, you're not really sure, go back and watch the other videos from this week and you'll be able to trace it back from there. And with everything, you see them in front of you. And sometimes this involves just you looking in the mirror, saying to them, I forgive you, and I ask that you forgive me. You breathe in peace, and you breathe out the past. And then you see them, and they are saying to you, I forgive you, and I ask that you forgive me. Breathe in peace. Breathe out the past. And know that it is done. You may need to do this a couple of times, but that is how you end up forgiving yourself. Hi, Victoria. Thank you for being here. So now that you've got your way about going to it, Sarah and Brian, I'd love to help you out. And if anyone else has anything, if there's time, go ahead and type in your comments. And if I can't get to them now during the live, I will get to them in the comments, typing back to you afterwards. So feel free to type in. Brian, thank you guys for your patience. I want to forgive myself for denying myself that I was depressed and not going to a professional sooner. First off, I acknowledge and honor, and I want to celebrate you for going to a professional at all. I mean, we are conditioned, especially those of us in our 30s and older, you go see a therapist, you're crazy. There's something wrong with you. And mental wellness has been such a horribly stigmatized thing. So if we can all show, can we get some hearts in there for Brian, please? Can we show him some love? Because, and these hearts are for Brian and anyone else who acknowledges that they need an extension, that they could use a little extra perspective. To take that, to first acknowledge that and then take that step is huge. So I want to send you some love for doing that and owning up to that. That's amazing. And I'd like to remind you of, I think it's I want to say Lao, or it's a Chinese, I think, proverb. The best time to plant a tree was 1,000 years ago. The next best time to plant a tree is today. We take action with what we know. And even then, it takes inertia, right? Like that pot with boiling water. Action doesn't happen for a long time, but it doesn't mean that things aren't happening in the process. You're working up the courage. You're justifying. You're figuring it out. You're wondering, do I really need this? Do I really not? Like, you did it. You might not have done it 1,000 years ago, but you did it that day. And I, for one, believe in divine timing. I believe that I don't go with the cliche of everything happens for a reason. I say everything happens for you, not to you. You had other lessons that had to occur to make you the awesome person that you are now. I've known you for years, and I've always known that you're an awesome person. But sometimes we can't see that. And sometimes we're an awesome person, and we become even more awesome. And it's through these lessons. Remember, the universe whispers, and then it talks a little louder. And then it yells at you, and you're still not listening, so then it taps you on the shoulder and gives you a shove. It's constantly giving you these messages, and it's okay that you don't hear it. We are literally taught to ignore instincts, to ignore external factors, and like, this is the way things are gonna be. Follow this. Like, we are taught to unlearn everything that we come into this world knowing. So we get these inklings and we don't act on them. We don't listen to the whispers. And so, of course, you're going to say, I don't need this. Of course, you're going to say, especially if it's something that goes against conventional standards, you're going to talk yourself out of it. So in this exercise for you, it's about cutting yourself some slack, right? And saying, look, I had to, hi, Julie, thanks for being here. I had to learn a few more lessons to work up the courage, to give me that kick in the pants I needed to go to that professional. And you know what? In everything, if you've been watching my other videos, and if you haven't, go back and watch the other videos from this week. Even in the worst things, they happen for you. They're gifts. They brought you to a new state of understanding, a new state of appreciation, a new state of perspective. And had you gone to a professional sooner, you might have been wasting money. You might have gone physically, but mentally been like rolling your eyes and been like, this is stupid. You know, when the student is ready, the teacher will appear. So lean into those feelings. Take the process that I described in this video earlier and lean in. And if you guys can please, Brian and Sarah, I'm going to get to you in just a moment. If you guys can please do yourselves a favor and do me a favor, take this practice over the next couple of days, over the weekend, and then come back and message me and let me know what's coming up for you. Leaning into these feelings. And Brian, I hope you're still watching. Is this, what I'm saying is, am I resonating on a level with you at all? Like, is some of this starting to be a little bit more clear helping you kind of break up that concrete into smaller chunks that you can start to dissolve. If you guys can do me a favor, because I know how hard it is. I know how painful it can be. And I know how beautiful it is when you go through it. And that's why I do what I do. And it truly is my desire to be there for you and help you and to see you come out on the other side of this. You know, do the steps in today's video with what you've proclaimed. And thank you for being so brave to proclaim it, that you're looking to forgive, and follow up with me and let me know how that works for you, what comes up, so we can go further. Thank you, Brian. Sarah, I couldn't accept that my father was dying, and I would get angry with him when he wouldn't do things that I thought he should, like eat right or drink the homemade juices I made him. He was such a good sport in hindsight. He knew he was dying and he was tired. I wish I would have just let him relax instead talk to him about how he was feeling. Just a lot of guilt about how I should have accepted his fate. Sarah, you saint Sarah. Hi, John. Thank you for being here. I'm going to be honest. I would have been the same way. And I can relate. My mom, I don't think she's dying, but she's on the can't beat 'em, join 'em train, and has joined her alcoholic husband in alcoholism, goes for that coping all the time, eats like crap. And anytime I would go home, like, I would try to teach her about healthier options, teach her about healthier foods. And she straight up, I get it, money's tight, and investing in healthier things can be a switch. And she straight up was like, look, I don't want to stick around. Like, if it's my time, it's my time. She has her own perspective. She has her own story. Your father had his own story. Not saying that he wanted to go, but we all have our own level of acceptance. And he appreciated you, and he knew that that was your way of showing love. And if I'm not mistaken, you had a much, not knowing you, not knowing your situation, from what you typed in, I get the impression that for a lot of your life, you've been the one taking the reins. You've been the provider, the doer. If it's got to get done, it's up to me. And you've taken on a lot more responsibility than little Sarah, when she was young, should have. Am I in the ballpark here? Did little Sarah find herself in situations where she kind of had to grow up a little faster than what would have been ideal? You've got that nurturing, that caretaker, and that natural inclination to that desire to help, which are such amazing qualities. Don't ever fault yourself for wanting to do good in the world. Your dad certainly doesn't fault you for that. He so appreciated that. Cassandra, love, thank you for being here. When my grandmother, the closest person to me in the entire universe, when she was on her deathbed, my family kicked me out of the hospital. I didn't shower, I didn't eat, I didn't sleep. I was there for days. They kicked me out, so that I could go shower and get some sleep. And I showered. I went back home, I showered, and I immediately gathered up her stuff so she could be surrounded by things. I immediately went to take care of her. And by the way, when I first got to the hospital, she yelled at me. She was like, "Why are you here? I don't want you to see me like this. You don't need to be here. You don't need to go through this." She just wanted to relax in peace, and she didn't want to be a burden to anybody. She knew she was dying like your dad knew he was dying, and she was also tired like your dad knew he was tired. And I was so like, let me make you comfortable. What can I do? And I remember actually this ring, she always wore it, and I was trying to force it on her fingers. And her fingers were so swollen from the edema. I'm desperately jamming it on her finger. Her finger's turning extra purple. And I'm holding back all the tears like, why won't it go on? Why won't it go on? And my mom actually came over and she goes, "I think it's time that you wear that ring." Acceptance about letting go is so difficult, and it's not easy. And yeah, for years, how could I have done things differently? The kicker for me, I had just flown, she had gone into the hospital when I was just flying back from Long Island from a trip that she paid for so I could go and look at apartments because I was moving there. I had such guilt. And I understand you. And Sarah, I acknowledge and I appreciate you doing all the things that you knew, and I bet your brain was scrambled, right? Like, I got to do this, we got to do this, and how else can we take care of you? Like, positivity, let's go. We're going to get you healthy. Like, this is going to happen. And he's like, no, relax. You can't beat yourself up for that. In fact, most people I know, that would qualify for sainthood. Look at the good you did. And he appreciates you for that. He is so grateful for that. Yeah, he wanted to rest, but guess what? He's resting now. He's resting now, and he's looking at you having guilt about this. And that's hurtful. Not like you're hurting him, but he loves you. He doesn't want you to be in pain, especially over him. The only one who had to accept his fate was him. And he did. And now he needs you to accept your fate, which is to be amazing and to thrive and to live your life. Yeah, he wants to keep his memory alive in you, but not at the cost of holding you back. You were so strong, and you still are strong. That's why you're still holding on to this. You're a fighter. And that's a good quality. Just don't turn it into martyrdom. Lean into that. Look how much love you showed him. Like, you showed him a lot of love before that, and girl, you turned up the love. He saw that. He felt that. You didn't send him over the edge with extra love. He's relaxing now. And he'll relax a heck of a lot easier when he sees that you're relaxing. Because right now he's stressed out. He's like, yeah, I was tired and I want to chill. Can you let me chill? You chill. So look at all those things that you did. That's amazing. Look at all the love you showed him. And even in his tired eyes, you can still see the love behind that. I can still see my grandma's piercing blue eyes, tired as hell. She was intubated. My grandfather and I were the last two people to ever hear her actually speak. And they gave her she didn't have a stroke, but they gave her a stroke board to try to communicate with us to spell out what she was trying to say. And that was so frustrating, and that was so hard to see her look at me with such anguish. And I know exactly what you're talking about, with those tears of just like, can I go? Can I stop? I know that. And I know how piercing that can be. And I also know that behind that tired and pain was so much love and appreciation for you being there. She and your dad were staying strong for you because they're your dad, right? You're his baby girl. And no matter how much you're taking care of him, he's got to be strong for you till the end. And I know that look, but even behind that pain was that tiredness was because they loved you so much. And those eyes that brought tears to my eyes just now, I still see them, but they don't bring me the pain. Those tears are joy because I can see the love in those eyes. And for years, those terrorized me because all I was seeing was the hurt and the pain in those eyes. And when you can realize that it's actually the love looking back, the pain was on them, but the love was for you. So acknowledge everything that you did, all the love that you gave, and know that he was so appreciative and you weren't pushing him. He's grateful and he's proud because that's the daughter he raised, that fighter, the lover. And that is a lesson for you to carry on and know that, that happened for you, right? Feeling guilty about this is a lesson for you to feel strong and powerful. And girl, you are awesome. So if you guys have any more things that you would like to work through, that is my time. I do have to go to be respectful to everyone that's coming back on. Jen, hey girl, thanks for being here. Teddy, thanks for being here. I will get to your comment, but that is my time. So thank you guys so much for being here. Go ahead and go back through the other videos if you'd like to learn more, if you're just joining me on how to forgive. And I look forward to seeing you guys for the Midday Mindset at 11:05 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. And I'm really excited because I already know what I'm going to talk to you guys about today. In the meantime, cough in your elbows, wash your hands, and stay the home. Love y'all. Bye.